Hi, Marcus Whitman families and those participating in winter athletics. This is a presentation of for the winter 21-22 season, a parent information session. So I have some contents in here that will be relevant to you and your families and your child if they're participating in winter sports. The main objective of winter athletics is shown here. It is considered an extension of the classroom and part of the educational process. Absolutely, first and foremost is student well-being. Student-athlete well-being is a priority. Within competition, and ideally kids are learning how to compete and enjoying that experience. I'm a big believer and promote within our program the importance of building relationships within the program. That's a great foundation to success and opportunity to exhibit pride and build life skills that will apply not only to athletics, but across all the experiences we're bound to encounter through life. So ideally, that's an opportunity for students to learn those skills through athletics. Start dates for this winter season. Modified swimming has begun already. It started October 25th. Same for modified basketball. That was a November 1st start. All other sports, modified JV and varsity, are scheduled to start November 15th. Practice locations do vary depending on the sport. They're listed here. Cheerleading primarily will be at the Valley Primary Gym. Swimming will be in our high school pool, of course. Bowling is off-site at Roseland Bowl for all practices and many matches. Wrestling is a sport that we merge with Penn Yan, so we'll have practices. Some of them will be at the Marcus Whitman Wrestling Room in our middle school, and some will be at Penn Yan Academy. Indoor track, they will be using our high school halls and the Bosie's gym, and then once our new second floor facility is open, they will take advantage of that space. Modified basketball is exclusively in the middle school gym for practices and their home games. JV and varsity basketball will be in our high school gym, and hockey, a team that we're merged with Geneva and many others, will take place at the Geneva Ice Rink. Practice times are always listed on the school website. Most often, they will be right after school for just about every sport, with the exception of JV and varsity girls basketball. They often will be in a 5:30 time slot in the high school gym. Registration is still open for winter athletics. You can find it on Family ID under the Athletics tab on the website. Current physical needs to be on file with our nurse, Mrs. Roaring. That physical has to be within the last 12 months. The exceptions that were made during COVID, they are no longer in place. We are now back to the regular rules and expectations. A physical from the last 12 months is what's needed in order to participate in interscholastic sports. Our program is designed across 3 levels, really, although I have 4 listed here. Modified can take shape in 2 different ways, and we have both of these options in the winter. And then we have junior varsity as well as the varsity sports. So modified can look 2 different ways. Traditional modified includes grades 7 and 8, and this is what we have in our basketball programs because we have the existence of a JV program in basketball. So modified would be the 7th and 8th grade team grades within that team. Modified A is a little different. That includes grades 7, 8, and 9. This format exists when there is not a JV program in place, and that is really every other sport we have during the winter with the exception of basketball. And at the modified level, the emphasis is building skills, knowledge, strategies in the sport. Good sportsmanship is emphasized across all levels. You'll see that. And in modified level, the goal is equitable playing time. So this may not be exactly even or equal, but we strive to get kids into as many experiences as equitably as possible within each of the sports. At this level, we try to keep everybody who's interested in playing. Most often that is the case. However, cuts are possible due to potential team size challenges. This typically exists within the sport of basketball when you can only have 5 players on the court at once for a contest. So we do have cuts, or sometimes we use a method called the practice squad player, where a player, if he still wanted to stick around, but maybe is still working on skills and building that capacity to be ready for competitive sports, they can come to practices, participate in that experience, and ideally work their way into a game. But again, we're trying to manage numbers at that sport, at that level, to make it meaningful for everybody. Junior varsity sports. Again, this offer at Whitman only exists within girls and boys basketball right now. Traditionally, this is grades 9 and 10. Continued emphasis on building skills. Sportsmanship continues to receive an emphasis as well, and also starting to get deeper into team strategy and tactics. The competitiveness starts to grow at this level. Playing time is not equal across the players. It starts being more based on skills, performance, work ethic, and other factors controlled by the student athlete. So playing time will not be equal at this level. And again, cuts are possible at this level in the same spirit of what I shared a moment ago regarding modified. And then varsity sports, we have this available to all our winter sports. Traditionally grades 11 and 12 for varsity. Emphasis increases on competitiveness. Winning becomes more important at this level. Team concept, understanding roles on a team. Sportsmanship again receives emphasis continually. At this level, we get more sophisticated with strategies and tactics, more advanced and focused on the finer details. Playing time is not guaranteed at this level. It will not be equal. Playing time is based on skills, ability, preparation for competition at that level. So playing time will not be equal at this level. And again, cuts do become a possibility at this level. Communication is a key, is a foundation to success. Most often it is positive and proactive, and that is the goal, to make sure we're building those relationships through good communication. That comes from me, from our coaches, from student athletes to the coaches, just doing our best to communicate, and then getting involved with parents, and then everyone who's involved with the program around that. But inevitably, with competition, with the emotion attached to athletics and dealing with competition, I guess, said that already, inevitably there's a situation where it will be some friction, or maybe a situation that has to be resolved. In that case, we always want to try to have the student athlete and coach interact first, to try to resolve anything that is a disagreement or not going the way someone might expect. If it can't be resolved there, moving towards having the parents included, again, looking for a resolution in every step of the way. And still, if something cannot be resolved, it would then include myself as athletic director, all the way up to the principal, superintendent, and ultimately the Board of Education if necessary. Ideally, we don't reach a point where we can't resolve something, but sometimes it happens. But hopefully we have a communication system and a relationship built that we can manage any things that are creating some tension or some friction. Items that are open to discuss with the coach are on the left of this slide. And those include ways your child, a student athlete, can improve their skills, the well-being of the student athlete. Again, that's a continued emphasis within our program. Behavioral concerns, schedules, things like that are definitely items to discuss with the coach. However, there are items that are not open to discussion with the coach. It is a coach's decision, and that would include playing time, position a student athlete may be playing on a team strategy, other student athletes. Those items are not open for discussion. Those are coaching decisions, and they will handle those, and it's not for discussion any further. And also, we do try to emphasize, as shown at the bottom of the slide, 24-hour rule. And that piece is just if there is something that happens at a contest that created some discontent that someone didn't like. Obviously, there's emotion involved when we're in the thick of a contest. We ask that we wait 24 hours before we discuss whatever the incident or issue may be. Kind of removes that emotion from what may be being discussed. It's sometimes tough to find a resolution when it is an emotional way of handling it. So we ask that we wait a 24-hour rule from the coaches, from the parents, from the student athlete, and then talk about it after that time has passed. Attendance, absolutely. Student athletes are students first, so they must be in school in order to participate that day, unless they have a legal excuse. If a student is absent from school, that student athlete cannot participate in that day's game or practice unless there is a legal written excuse. Some examples would be a doctor's appointment, dentist appointment, a driver's test, college visit, etc. For example, if a student was off visiting a college one day and it took the bulk of the day, if they came back with an excuse to express that, they would absolutely be able to participate in practice or contest that evening, because that is a legal excuse. Academic eligibility, again, focusing on the student first. I'm not sure why I have a question mark on the slide, so apologies for that. That's not intended to be there. But eligibility occurs through a warning list. This is a list that exists for 2 weeks, gives a student 2 weeks of opportunity to try to resolve any grade that's below 64. They have an obligation to meet with the classroom teacher in which the class that they are struggling in. During this time on the warning list, the student is absolutely permitted to fully participate in practices, fully participate in games, just knowing that they have to get some things resolved for that class that they are struggling in. If over those course of 2 weeks that does not get resolved, that child would then move to the ineligible list. This is similar in the sense that the grades are a concern, a continued meet with the teacher during 10th period, but the change here is that the student is only allowed to participate in practice. They can attend games, but they would not dress for competition if they're on the ineligible list. So they have to get those academics in order to be participating in contests if they're ineligible. Within our handbook, we have the athletic code as it pertains to substances. Examples are on this slide: alcohol, drugs, vape, and other illegal substances that always seem to come up each year. So it may include some that may not even exist yet. But if a student does have a situation in which they've chosen to use a substance, and that's come to my attention or the principal, Ms. Taft's attention, perhaps our school resource officer, that does have implications on athletics. A first incident that occurs in this category would result in a 25% suspension from scheduled contests. That would be a discussion that I would have with the student, myself. And we also incorporate our school counselor, Lindsay McCumber, in some of this process. But that would be the violation if there is a substance situation that comes to our attention. Ideally, everything's resolved from there, but if it does happen again in the future, a second incident would result in a 50% suspension from scheduled contests. And if further that's still a problem, a third incident would be a determination by our athletic review board. This is a group that I assemble based on need. If we have a student that has reached this point with some substance problems or situations, this athletic review board reviews the situation anonymously and makes a determination of what an appropriate penalty should be going forward. And within this athletic code, if a student chooses to self-refer themselves, knowing that maybe they made a mistake, if they come forward to any of those people I mentioned, Ms. Taft, Officer Lambert, myself, Dr. Brown, regarding a first incident, it may result in a lesser penalty. So perhaps it might be a 12.5% suspension instead of a 25% suspension. So that is an option if students choose to go that route. If a situation occurs out of season, a volunteer project option also is available that could potentially reduce a penalty. And again, that's only for a first incident. If a student has something that happens in a season that they are not participating in a sport, the penalty would carry into the next athletic season. So for example, if they don't play a sport in the fall and a situation happens resulting in a penalty, when they start the next sport in the winter, that penalty would apply to that season. And our athletic code does align with the school student codes of conduct as well. So we make sure we're all aligned as a district. Concussions continually seem to grow in concern. This is a very serious situation, of which we take very seriously as well. Again, as I mentioned before, student-athlete health and safety is our number one priority. We want them to be safe within their competition, but inevitably sometimes we do have a concussion situation, a head injury, and if we do suspect a head injury in practice or competition, the coaches have been directed to remove the student-athlete from the practice or the contest. We're not going to take any chances with a head injury. So the coaches are well aware of this, and I wanted to make sure you're aware as well. We do have a strict protocol that we have to follow if a concussion is suspected. This is a 7-day return to play protocol that involves our school nurse, of course the student, of course you, a family, as well as our school physician. And to make sure that a child is truly ready to return to competition or to practice, knowing they are symptom-free and healed from whatever concussion or head injury they may have experienced. COVID also, unfortunately, we have to have the slide right now as part of our health and safety. But a couple potential situations regarding COVID. If a student is positive, if they test positive, similar to what we have for a concussion, once they've gone through their quarantine and been through that experience, there is a return to play process coming back from COVID as well. Similar in that it's a 7-day return to play, and between the family, the school, the nurse, school physician, we work together to make sure that student athlete is ready to resume sports coming off of COVID. Separately, if a student is quarantined but negative, they're simply quarantined because of a potential association with someone that's positive. Once that quarantine is over, provided they never tested positive, that student may return to sports immediately following quarantine. Again, that's only if they remain negative for the entire time. And again, this is in conjunction with our school physician and the others that I mentioned as part of that decision-making process. Regarding events this year and how COVID impacts that, currently we will not have any spectator limits. We'll be able to allow everybody who wants to attend to come to a contest. Masks will need to be worn inside for any inside event. That will be a full expectation 100% of the time. Also, as far as seating arrangements go, families can sit together, but then we're going to be asking that as different families sit down, that they have a 3-foot gap between themselves, just to try to do our best with social distancing as a component of safety as well. And then additionally, partially related to COVID, but also just what we're moving forward with as a policy, food will not be allowed in the high school gym or the pool area. We will have areas where food can be enjoyed from our concession stand. That will be in the halls. But we will not be allowing any food in the high school gym or the pool area. We are fortunate enough to have an athletic trainer that serves our district. They are provided through Rochester Regional Health. The gentleman we have this year is named Dylan Goodsell. He is here 2 times a week formally for office hours. That does vary a little bit week to week based on his availability and whatever needs we may have that week. Currently, he works out of the nurse's office for his office hours, but as our second floor is completed and we're able to take advantage of that space, he will work out of the weight room fitness center area as his home base when he has office hours. He is available to serve all student athletes, any ache, pain, injury, whatever it may be. He is available to provide service. His goal, really, through the athletic trainer's eyes, is to do all he can to keep students participating in their respective sports. Obviously, if there's a major injury, he would defer to the next level, your doctor or further. But for the aches and pains, the things that can be stretched out, the things that can be iced, the types of pieces that are expected because you're pushing yourself physically, he is striving to give the kids strategies, tools, resources that can help them stay in competition as often as possible. And he also is present at varsity level contests for the higher level impact sports. I've listed soccer and football here, but in the winter that includes basketball and wrestling. In the spring that includes lacrosse. So he is present at those events just to be on site in case anything occurs. Once again, just to bring it back around, our objective is to make it a learning process when participating in interscholastic athletics here at Whitman. We do consider it an extension of the classroom. Well-being is absolute top priority, and then these other pieces to have an opportunity to learn to compete, to push yourself physically, mentally, enjoy the experience, build relationships with those around you, and the experience on your team and coaches and everything associated with it, and exhibit pride in being a Wildcat. It is always a great day to be a Wildcat, and I really look forward to our winter season. I hope to see you at some contests, and if I know you and your family, I look forward to talking to you. If I don't yet, I'd love to meet you and develop a relationship because it's really a great experience of which I take great pride in as I enjoy my role significantly. Also, if you follow social media, Twitter is a great way to keep track of Whitman athletics. That's the one that I post to most regularly. We also have Instagram and Facebook, which I hope to add to those social media options as well. But that can always be a way to keep tabs on Whitman athletics. So thank you again. I look forward to seeing you this winter, and go Wildcats.